Alright, so the last video I was talking about sequelize and some of its benefits. Um, in theory, it should make development a lot easier, even though I did spend a lot of time yesterday setting up the models, and basically learning about sequelize a lot more. It's a lot slower switching to something you don't know and you have to learn than it is something you already know. So I'm thinking, with that said, in the future it'll be a lot easier for me to figure out. So one of the big benefits I've seen already is the fact that I can build and delete the entire database with a couple of functions, or a couple of functions, and then I can rebuild the entire database without having to run the SQL scripts at all. I can do it all entirely in JavaScript while also having a SQL database on the back end. So I basically rebuilt everything I had on the back end with sequelize. And it was a bit of a headache, but here we are. I'm pretty much got a lot of the API routes done, or at least somewhat in working function, at least enough for me to take a break on the back end and go ahead and work on some front end stuff. Like for example, we can check out albums, right? So if we go to get all albums, all we have to do is call this find all, and then this will return, I don't even need these parentheses here, this will return all of the albums I have in my database, just that easily. And if we have an error, it'll catch. So if we hop into Postman, see get all albums, alright, so this would be get all artist, and then obviously I can come to get all albums. Whoops, so I messed something up there. Album slash all. So here we would have all of our albums in a nice, beautiful, and I mean picture perfect response from the API. From the database, I mean picturesque. And obviously this is what we have now, but in the future, if we have hundreds of albums, that's all of the code that will need to be done. And we will get all of these albums. I also need to work on the date picker component here, because I do want to just actually get the actual release day. And that's another cool thing with sequelize. All I need to do is come in here and change this variable, and then rebuild the database, and that's all the work I have to do. I think that's pretty cool. So these would be all the albums when they were created in the database. Sequelizes that automatically, as well as the ID is coming in automatic. So basically, to add a new one, that would be the request body, just the name, an artist ID, a release year. So I'm assuming you could add a new album in the artist page, you know? So then we have the same thing like I showed you for artists, and we don't actually have any songs in the database right now, but that's fine. It's going to be the exact same code. That's the cool thing about this, because the exact same code at artist is going to give us all of the artists in the database. And then, like I was talking about earlier, I'll need to add like a artist image link under artist, but I can do that really easily with sequelize. So I'll need to add an image artist, so that way, you know, they'll have a picture in the database. And the same thing with the album artwork. But like I said, a lot of that stuff just needs to come right away, because I've been racking my brain with this stuff for a couple of days now. So I do want to hop into the front end, because I've been thinking about a lot of that stuff as well. So just hopping back into VS Code, I have a lot of sample routes that I'm going to work on, and it does look like a lot, because it kind of is a lot, but a lot of it is just copy and pasting once I get one done for albums, etc., etc. So if we just go through some of these, it's get all albums, get the albums, like get how many likes, go through the entire database and see how many likes that album has, and then display it. So it might be 300, it might be 250, it might be 10, etc., etc. This is the same thing for favorites, get total favorites, and then this would be like average, and then you can get the average album rating in the database. But sometime in the future I'm going to work it out to where the first user in the database will be me and my score will be weighed higher, so that way it's still public but it's also my website. You know, that's the whole point. And this would be adding a like to the database, and this actually works already. I mean, this is pretty easy and pretty cool. So if we just go to album/like, and this is why I think it was worth it to come over to sequlize, because I could have done it with MongoDB to begin with, but I really wanted to have a SQL backend rather than a NoSQL thing. So I was averse to that, but then I found this and I think it's really worth it. So ideally, if we send in like an album, so like this would be what? But yeah, so you have some different, I don't know why it's not working right now. I don't really feel like, so here would be, I don't really feel like getting it to work, whatever. So this would be like get album favorites. So for this first album, I'm not sure which one it is. It's going to return all the favorites it has in the database. So this would show on the front end as like a 4. This album has 4 favorites. And then I don't even know if this would be necessary, but it's here. It also is bringing back the user's ID, so that way I can see who actually favorited the album. You know, because I can make a little card that says this user, click on him and you can see his profile or some shit like that. I don't know, bro. I don't know why this one's not working. It doesn't have user ID, but as you can see, you just punch in. Hopefully this works. Hopefully this works. Whoops. Whoops. Okay. I don't know why I didn't want to come up. So that one did not work because I guess that combination's already in the database. The response isn't the best right here. So that one did work. It inserted the values that I just punched in. So I just punched in 1 and 9 into album favorites. So we'll come to our SQL database. And there is 1 and 9 that I just punched in this morning. And you can see the ones that I did yesterday. So that's pretty cool that we can add it to the database, even if you abstract VS Code from it. So you abstract all of the code and you just have the API. This is showing you what exactly is happening. I can send in something from right here, from Postman. So it's in there. Skip over VS Code, go straight to the database, completely skip over to the back end, and then see the same thing here on the back end. So on the database end rather. So that's going to show you kind of what we're building towards. We just need a front end. So that's pretty cool. That is pretty darn cool.